That was all.
And it's all predicated on the number of people.
Good, fine. Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Motion to approve the minutes of the November 9th, 2017 Manistee Township Board meeting and the November 9th, 2017 special board meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the two meetings as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Been moved and supported that the November 9th, 2017 Manistee Township Board meeting minutes and the November 9th, 2017 special board meeting minutes. All in favor? Aye. None opposed? You received a copy of your treasurer's report. Any comments?
Likewise, I'll make a motion to accept the treasurer's report as presented and placed on file.
Support? Support. So move support of the treasurer's report be accepted as presented, placed on file. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. None opposed? Carried. We have no minutes of the planning commission meeting, which was held last week, correct?
Correct.
And there was no appeal.
That is correct.
The correspondence in the packet is Mr. Jensen's resignation from the appeals board. We'll address that later on the agenda. Other than that, there's nothing in your packet. Anyone with anything to bring before the board at this time?
Yeah.
You are, ma'am?
Yes, Peggy Acton,
Yes, ma'am.
and we heard that you're going to do something with the two tennis courts over here, and we were wondering if there's any way that we could get some pickleball courts.
Well, there's been a lot of interest. A lot of people, such as yourself, have come forward and asked about that court. We've had bids to repair it. We've had bids to resurface it. The resurfacing was $14,000. And then some people have brought it to my attention that it could be, and I don't know, I don't play pickleball, but they said it could be, without too much expansion, be two pickleball.
Yeah, no, well, we could put in, out of two tennis courts, you could make 4 pickleball courts. And that would bring people from all over there to play.
The research that I've done is that it just needs, well, the fences would have to come down and be moved, but we've researched 2 different avenues of funding to repair that, and we're unsuccessful in both. It is on our worksheet, for lack of another term, for this year. I think you will see something done.
Well, that's the thing, is those were not used very much for tennis at all, but they were used a lot all summer for pickleball.
Well, they can be used for both, right?
Yeah,
still
they
be-
can be. They can be, but there's a lot of tennis courts around, but there isn't really any pickleball courts. And if we could have that one facility, and that would bring people in from the whole area to play pickleball there, it would be fantastic. It's the fastest growing sport in the United States.
Are you a township resident?
No, Manistee resident.
Manistee City?
City, yeah.
Okay.
There are some
But
here.
we played pickleball there all last summer.
And I'm glad no one got hurt with those large.
I know, it's very dangerous. There's some big cracks in it. It was a little scary. So that's why if money is going to go into fixing them up, if we could, have a way of making them into pickleball courts.
Well, the intentions is to make it a court that could be used by both tennis and pickleball.
Okay.
That's the intention. And also the intention is to repair them. Because it's a liability. We talked to our risk manager and he looked at it, he said, you know,
Yes.
either tear it out or fix it.
Well, there was some people that came in from out of town that wanted to play pickleball, and they said, well, the only place is over here. And they came and looked at the courts, and they said, those are the only courts you have to play pickleball? And we said, yes, and they wouldn't play there because of the condition of the courts. So you're discouraging people that, and you could bring in so many people. We have a bid from Holland, Michigan, that put in the courts, and we have all their information that I can leave with you.
If you would,
like.
please.
Yeah,
Sure.
okay, all right.
It's not
Pass it up.
obviously anything that's gonna be done during winter months.
Oh,
It is
no,
something
I
that's
know
on-
that, yes, yeah.
It is something that's on our long-range recreational plan to repair that. Well, the 3 pieces of property is in a recreational plan to develop it. The playground, the tennis courts,
Right.
parking area,
Yeah.
but it's a long-range.
Well, this
Plan.
winter, since September, we've been playing in the armory, because we rent that from the armory, and we've had 80 people since September that have been over there playing pickleball. And that's just in September.
So we might have to put a street light up there.
No, it's indoors at the.
No, I mean here.
Oh, yeah, right, yeah, we might.
It is on our agenda of things that we'd like to do, and it is in our plan for developing this recreational area.
Okay, you got a beautiful space here, just beautiful.
Yes, sir.
My name is Pete Ramon, and one of the reasons there's not much tennis use is because the fences are too close. When you play tennis, you run into the fence for when you play doubles. It's real close to the out of bounds line. And if they were expanded just a little bit, you could easily get 4 courts, pickleball courts, along with the 2 tennis courts. But they'd have to be modified just not that much, but like move the fences up.
I think,
And then people would use them for tennis. But right now, because we play tennis and pickleball, and Greg and I do, and it's pretty tight there for tennis. But they could be, if you want it to be used, multi-use, it's not that much to modify that. And you could have really good pickleball courts and tennis courts.
could you leave us with your name and number, and as we develop this thing, we'll get with you guys and make sure you're barking up the right tree, for so to
And
speak.
it really is a nice area. When we're, I don't know how many people have been there since, like last summer when we were playing. Some people would just stop by from that campsite there. They'd be camping, they want to come over and play pickleball or tennis. And it just, a lot of tourists do come in and play that. And they look online because we have a site online, and people look at that and see, well, where do you play pickleball? That's where they play.
Who's "we" when you say we have a site?
It's manistee pickleball, Lakeside.
Okay.
It's a county-wide.
I didn't realize there was an organization or...
Arcadia, Bear Lake, Onekama, Manistee. Is there anything else?
But there's also a site where everybody can go on, and it's a USPCA site. And that's the whole United States, and you can go by state and by city and where they play. And you can look, so anywhere you go, you can check where they are, and we're on there in this court.
Is this or group organization at all in connection talking with the MRA?
The MRA helped us originally paint those lines
Take the
for
pickleball lines
pickleball.
on here.
Okay, I just didn't know if there was any correlation between the MRA
Yeah,
and
Ken
your
had called-
organization.
Ken
Pardon?
had called and asked if they could paint them.
Yeah, Cancot
Yeah.
helped.
And, you know, we have said with them that we would help teach people to play, but they don't seem to get the young people in there as much. It's a
We
mature.
we are going to be teaching some young people to play at the
Yeah.
Armory
Right.
during Christmas holiday. And it would be nice to set that up here as well, you know, once the courts are done.
Summertime.
By the way, my name is Pat Beach. I play pickleball too. And, you know, we just love this court. It's just wonderful. And it's so great to see you guys moving ahead before Manistee, right, to get this going.
Well, it's just, they've been neglected for a lot of years, and they need to be repaired for whatever reason.
Well, some high schools are actually having pickleball in high school now. In different schools in the state are actually having it as a class. So it's a big thing, and it's not gonna go away.
Well, if you could leave me your name and number, one of you guys or both of you guys, so that as this thing progresses throughout the winter months, make sure we're headed in the right direction. And, there's nothing cut in stone that this is gonna happen, but we're working in that direction.
Right.
It's nice to hear.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's why we wanted to come tonight, just in case something does happen, that, you understand more about it.
Greg has kept me, he stops me every once in a while and asks
Okay,
suggestions.
good.
He, by the way, is probably one of the best players. He's a
Yes,
real
he
good.
is. And Cindy lives in the township, and she plays, and she really likes it.
She's on
Good.
your reserve list.
Maybe if I got 10 minutes out of the day, maybe I'd join you, but so far no dice.
Well, anytime anybody wants to come over to the Armory on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 10 to 2, we're there. And
You can check it out.
Yeah.
Just, you can sit and watch, wear gym shoes in case you decide you want to try it. But we help people that are just learning, and you can stay for an hour, you can stay for whatever time you want. It's 10 to 2 every Tuesday and Thursday. And then we'll start the new session on January the 2nd. And that'll go until the end of May. So we'll be
Then you
in
go
the Armory.
outside.
Yeah, and then in May
We
we'll
go
go over to Darrell Wells.
Well, thank you folks for your interest, and again, we are working in that direction. It's just, things don't happen overnight.
No, we know that.
Hey, we appreciate your time.
Anyone else to bring anything before the board? Mr. Dunce, you got anything for us?
Well, I'm glad to know that I'm not the center of attention here, so like pickleball. At any rate,
I
I
just
gotta
gave you the time and date, you can go down there and get it.
since there's so many people, I'll stand tonight. Give you a quick rundown. James Stringham is our veterans counselor, and James has fell ill. He's not doing well at all, and he has resigned from that position as veterans counselor for the county. And Karen Korolenko is now the new veterans counselor. We appointed her at our last board meeting. The building that's been falling down up in Bear Lake on US 31 is coming down soon. It's coming down a little bit piece by piece at the moment. Yeah, but it's controlled piece by piece now. So that's moving forward, and it's going to be good to be able to go through Bear Lake and not have a fence telling you to stay away. But at any rate, that's moving forward, and from what our anticipated cost was roughly around $200,000, and what our treasurer, Russ Pomeroy, thought, and it came in at $57,500. We're very grateful for that, not to be as exorbitant as it was. All the 2017 tax reverted property sale is done. It raised $154,900, and it's $47,154 over the estimate, so that's good. PA 69 recycling, 7 townships have approved that, so that's moving forward. And the recycling team is, the green team is looking at twice in the 2018 calendar year to have a tire pickup. So we'll see where that goes. There's nothing in stone that that's going to happen. We had a special meeting on Monday in regard to AES contract for another year. And we are going to fund them at $7,500 a month. We're going to finalize that contract at the meeting coming up on this coming Tuesday. The big thing is Bar Lake Improvement Board. And Guy, I'll rely on you for the exact verbiage so I don't screw it up.
I don't think I brought it with me.
The gist of it is our board on a 3 to 0 to 1. And 1 is the abstention. Guy did not want to vote on it, so he abstained from voting on it. But the other three board members, and we're short one member now because of Clara passing, and we didn't fill that seat. What our recommendation from the board is to the township board to take over the responsibility of Bar Lake with a committee or whatever you were to decide to do if you would take it over. It's not a great deal of cost. Last year we spent no money on treatment whatsoever, zero. We spent $5,500 with RLS, which is the consulting firm. So, you know, and that's probably, every year is not going to be a treatment year, possibly. You don't know. Every year is different. But there's basically two lakes in the township. You have Bar Lake and Claybank Lake. We've got a little sliver the township touches, Manistee Lake, and obviously the big river. And you know, I'm an advocate for the township. I think the township has the capacity to do it, you know, whether it's in a committee form or what have you. Could put possibly an improved launch there, if you're so inclined. Again, I think the improvement board, the only thing we are charged with doing is invasive species control. A committee from the township could do more if they were so inclined to do. So, Guy's going to get the verbiage, we'll get the minutes done, and we will send that off to you in the official form coming from the improvement board. But that's probably the biggest thing we got. We do have $15,711.61 in kitty after we pay our bills, and you should be getting a check from our treasurer, Mr. Gans, here for $2,500 to repay the initial loan that the township has gave us. Yes, sir, Mr. Downs.
Why is it advantageous for the township to take this over rather than to have an association of owners?
The association could if they're so inclined. I can tell you where my oldest Joseph lives down
Then why, I guess, and I'm not suggesting that we don't or won't, but then why involve the township with it? What's the advantage of having the township?
I can't honestly tell you if there is an advantage for having the township.
Would it be because
Other than the fact of, you know, it's a way to get some of your tax dollars back into a body of water that's public. I mean, it's public access there, and all the public can utilize that lake if they so desire. The association can do it. And as I said, down where Joseph lives, down in Comstock Park on Little Pine Island Lake, I mean, their association takes care of their treatment for their lake, but it's a much more densely populated lake. And I couldn't even tell you what their fee structure is, but there again, then you get people who pay, people who don't, and it's not a huge cost. You know, I guess I would look at it from an aspect of it no different than the tennis courts. You know, there's maintenance there. God, how long have the tennis courts been there? 40 years, 45 years, 50 years? It's been quite a while. Probably haven't had anything done to them over all the years. But, you know, I mean, it's again, we have taxation, and it's a matter of putting some of the money back out where it meets the public.
Yeah. The difference I see, if I can, I think that's mine. Saved by the bell. The difference is right now, 80 people around that lake are paying the total cost of treatment and control of the invasive species of that lake. And the annual surveys and management. If it were transferred to the township, it's spread over all the people in the township, or all the property owners in the township. We also got, and one other thing, we also got a proposal from RLS for a less costly
$4,000
annual survey.
You know, and I've even thought about that. I mean, he turned around, Mike Solomon with RLS, he's also the Wexford County Drain Commissioner. He turned around due to weather conditions, and we had him on the phone, and that worked out fine. I mean, to have him come over for a meeting, I mean, he can do the phone thing, and it would be just fine. I mean, it's not like he's there to vote, he's just there to report. And it worked out, might be able to lessen the cost of that, just going that route, but still. And they're not the only game in town either. You know, there are other consulting firms that can do that if you're so inclined to utilize a consulting firm.
Yeah, the improvement boards are required to hire a consultant. Township really is not, if it were transferred to
Go
the
direct.
township. Yeah.
Go there, the price even goes down.
And the township has more,
It's the
they can do more
expertise.
things.
It's the expertise.
Right.
But
Expertise in what?
what weeds you're trying to control and how you're gonna control them.
Oh, you mean as
That's
far
why-
as
You know, and,
consultant is
and,
concerned,
yeah, and then you get into the situation where, you know, Clark, who does the treatment, or who has been doing the treatment, you might be able to
Could be
rely on
hired
them for the
directly.
expertise and just mitigate the whole thing and cut out the middleman. But again, this year, we didn't spend one dime on treatment.
Correct.
And it's been, you know, since it was formed, it was a contentious board. I think that has kind of lessened somewhat. I don't think it's anywhere near what it was.
but it's still there.
Yeah.
And now you want us to take it.
As I've said, if you want me to sit on a committee, if for whatever reason, I'm more than happy to. If anybody's inclined to have me sit on a committee, I'm just saying, I'm available to do it if need be.
If we haven't spent a dime on treatment, and you had whatever the number of expenses were, why not dissolve it?
Because at some point in time, it's gonna be back. It may be back this year. You may have 20 acres this year. You may have 2. Next year, there may be 40, there may not be any. You just don't know. Every year is different. You know, it's dynamic. It's not static. It's always changing.
So in the report that you just got, what's the average depth of that lake?
I think it's about 5.5 foot.
That's not the average, I think that's the deep.
Well,
I
Yeah,
read the report, it's 2.5 feet deep.
2.5
Yeah.
feet deep, yeah.
that's-
Jeff, it's about 2 feet.
Yeah.
But that was before the lake was as high as it is now.
Yeah, that's before these
They
houses
didn't-
got in danger that they're in now.
What a danger.
The water is the highest I've seen it in a long, long time.
It's getting close to where it was back in the 80s.
Yeah.
And it's not there. But last time I was in a duck line, we were standing in water. And the outlet hasn't flowed hardly at all summer.
Yeah, it's, the northwest winds are really raising a lot.
Well, the lake is so dang high, it just pounds it closed. Bang. it's
The whole,
down.
the whole access point's all shot, that's all going on.
At any rate, that's our suggestion from our improvement board to this board to consider that. And, you know, I don't expect any action tonight, obviously. It's something to think about, and if you need more information from us on the improvement board, let us know. We have not scheduled another meeting until, you know, we get some idea what's gonna happen with
What
this.
happened with your vacancy? You had a vacancy?
Well, Jim Henderson is no longer a township resident,
Oh,
so now it goes to,
but you had 2 applications, right?
well, we had Glenn Haglund and Shelley Green is now interested also, so there'd be 2 more people for the township to look at appointing if the board stays in
Continues.
business.
Yeah.
You know, if we don't, what's the sense?
Yes, ma'am?
On the idea of the association taking over, there are quite a few lakes in Michigan, even probably more throughout the United States, that has the association in charge of it. And the closest one to us is Chief, and they've been doing just fine. I talked with my friend in Onekama. She lives on Portage Lake. They are, of course, under a watershed and the township, and they do all of Onekama Township.
The whole township supports
Right.
it.
It costs her, she has 3 parcels on the lake. It costs her $8 assessment each year for each parcel by doing the whole township. But that is a resort lake. It's not a wetlands like our lake is. And because it's a wetlands, it is very protected from a lot of stuff. It's basically a nature's refuge, and there's a lot that you're not going to be able to do there because it is a huge wetlands. The only about the, and her assessment of $8 is for invasive weeds only. That's all they do. When they do their weed control also.
They've got a very active group up there, and there's a lot of people up there on Forest
Right.
Lake.
And the first treatment that they did on Bar Lake pretty much took care of it. After that, it just was down to nothing in the 3 years. So I don't see where.
Well, it didn't require treatment this year, obviously it worked, but there's nothing to say that it stays.
Right, but doesn't really have to be visited every year. See what I'm saying?
I don't know, I haven't been in conference with these people. Your board has been.
Another
Your board
thing-
are the officials on this subject, and we are not
Right.
at this point.
Right. Another thing too that has been brought up is that at the end of our assessment, according to what Article 29 under 309 or whatever, any money that was left after the assessment was done is to go back to the riparians. And that is not being done. That money is not in a kitty. It's the riparians' money that we have overpaid for this, and it's to go back to the riparians now.
That could very well be, I don't know.
Well, Dan can show you the legal talk.
I believe that's in case of dissolution of the board. That's a condition for dissolution, but I'm uncertain as to the
I'm
answer.
Shelley Green. I'd like to say that if we didn't treat, I thought we did do some treatment, but if we didn't, it was because it was smaller. The millifloral is still there. And yes, as everybody knows, it can, and Ken Hilliard is on our Lake Improvement Board, and he sits on Bar Lake, and he says, you know, it's always going to be there. Just because we treated it and we knocked it down doesn't mean it's not going to come back, and we're not going to have the problem. So this is going to be a continuous problem. And what I don't understand is the association doesn't have the ability to tax. So if somebody doesn't want to pay, they won't pay, the rest of us will have to cover for them. And it's either the township pick it up and the township support the lake, or I personally would rather see you leave the lake board, the Lake Improvement Board, intact. And then our assessment has stopped. We have 15,000 right now to use next year if we need to. And when that money runs down, then we can turn around and assess the homeowners again.
But we have to go through a legal process to even assess
Oh,
it.
I think you have to petition again, I think. I don't know.
You do. To assess,
Yeah.
but not for the board to exist.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Otherwise, thank you township, y'all can take it up.
If we're going to go back to assessing again, then it should be more than just the riparians, because that lake is open for everybody in that area to use. It's not fair to put it all on the riparians. And secondly, under the association handling it, those who want to treat their areas pay for their areas to be treated. That's it. If you don't want your area treated, you don't pay, and it doesn't get treated.
Well, Necama's under a different act, and I believe the riparians pay a little more than what the residents do that are back off the
Yes.
water. I think it's graduated as they
No, they
farther away.
Yes, they do.
There's a different price.
I talked to my friend, where she pays on lake is the same thing that somebody pays in town that is not on the lake. It's all the same.
That's not what Ken Hilliard told us.
That's
on
right.
Monday night.
That's what she
It's a
has the
progressive rate on the
paperwork,
lake.
she has the paperwork right there.
At any rate.
Charlie?
First of all, we have to make sure that everyone realizes there's a distinction when association is applied. That's not the board, the improvement board that is being referred to. An association is a group of riparians that can form an informal association or incorporate one. So just to make sure that we're not using that term association interchangeably between what is under jurisdiction of the Board Improvement Board versus a voluntary group of people on the lake.
Okay. Comments?
That's all I got.
Any people have anything to say? Anyone else from the audience?
I guess if you're gonna talk about dissolution, Dan, or some of your But anyway, if you're gonna talk about dissolution, there are different ways to go about it. The quickest way to dissolve that board is for the board to dissolve itself. The other options are for the governing body, which is you folks sitting up there, to hold a public meeting. And the language is that when the board has done everything that it had set out to do, then it's open for dissolution. What we hear all the time, and we hear this from, of course, RLS, they've indoctrinated that into people's heads, that if you got one weed growing there, it could propagate itself to 100,000 of them before a year's out if we don't go in and take your money and treat that. So, you know, we got the fox watching the hen house there when it comes to, I was asked at the last meeting if I didn't trust the professionals. Well, a professional is someone who earns his living by putting his hand in your pocket to begin with. Blarney Castle is our professional gas people, but how many people ask how come our gas prices are higher in Manistee than they are anywhere else?
Get to your point, Dan, please.
Okay, so.
Dissolution.
Yeah, dissolution means that if everything has been done that this board has been formed to do, then it can dissolve.
But there's an argument whether it has or has not. There's an
Yeah.
argument as to whether the weeds will return or whether the weeds are all gone.
I don't think that's an
And we're
argument.
not up to this board to decide if the weeds are there or not. So, you, at this point, what I would like you to do, but this is something that the Bar Lake Improvement Board is going to do as a group.
Our recommendation is if the township is willing to take over, we would be in favor of disillusionment. But we don't want to do that unless the township board wants to commit to the maintenance of the lake is the
And
simplest
you
way to
know how
put it.
broad that brush is, Jeff? You
Well,
got any idea?
at the moment, all we're talking is invasives.
At the moment.
Everything evolves, Dennis.
When this thing started, it was, yeah, buddy, let's go do it. Look what it's come to.
Exactly.
And now you want to dump it in our life.
Again, you have a committee structure and assign a committee to it. And so that's what the heck we got now, except now we've got the authority to tax, where the committee does not. You know, and if you got the wrong people on the board, or depending on your opinion, or, you know, whatever that may be,
Or
we could all of a sudden have a $120,000 bill for something that, you know, encompassing this large as opposed to the focus which should be this large, and then you've got that ability to tax those residents.
Generally speaking, most people are not encouraged by a tax assessment. And that's why we want the township to do it, so that they can levy a tax on everybody instead of just the people that are in favor of this thing of the invasive species, to eliminate that, rather than, we've had mixed opinions on this thing from its infancy.
Yeah.
See, there's no, for lack of another term, there's no corral around what's wanted out there.
You're never gonna have that. Hey, you got divergent opinions everywhere.
Yeah.
But that's the other thing is the township, if it's under the committee structure, if it's under committee structure from the township can control the committee.
We can't
If
get
the
anybody to
township
fill
can
the
say
two
yea or
vacancies we
nay,
got.
well, I would think we could probably come up with 5 people for a committee. I don't think that would be a problem. But then you would definitely have control as a township board member, as opposed to us 5, or currently 4 renegades.
No, it's pretty busy. Every day there's many kayaks out. They come in from a...
Again, we don't want to,
Kayaking has grown.
Oh my God.
we don't want to dissolve it unless there is a
You'll return to something
a
else.
willingness to make sure something happens, if it's inclined and needed, you know. Otherwise, we'll stay in business, and then we're gonna have to go through the process to reassess. Obviously, it wouldn't need to be as much as it has been, but there definitely need to be. We got enough to go for another year for sure.
One thing.
Yes, ma'am.
I know Heather has sold about 5 houses. They've been pretty high price. Everybody has put much money into their homes that have bought every one of them. They're from Indiana, different places. And they bought it because they
It's
wanted
on
the
the
lake.
water.
It's on the water and they want to use it. And they all do use it. And so that's what brought them to, they didn't really like the cottage that much. So they put X amount of dollars in it, and so they're out there using it. So it's never been used like it is right now.
But you know, and this is just conversation, and I'm not trying to point
Right.
sticks at anybody or anything, but didn't these people research and find out this is a 2.5-foot lake?
The guy said that Monday was 6 feet in big areas. Yes, it is. That's what he said, right on tape, so you can listen to it yourself.
I can tell you when I went around there in a kayak last year, I would tell you the majority of the lake is 5 foot until you get to the far east side.
It will be
And then
for the next 3 years, and then after that.
Well, yeah, then it goes down.
But for 5 feet, they like kayaking,
Oh,
so,
yeah.
and that's why
That's
they
right.
bought it.
A lot of the, some of the people, in fact, they were our association presidents, have sold out because this isn't the lake that they want.
It
They
was the
want
lake.
Well,
40.
that's their own choice then.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying that the lake isn't the problem. Another thing is that we are paying out of our tax dollars, the Bar Lake Board to sit there and when there isn't anything to do. We paid RLS $5,500 out of our assessment money and they didn't have to do anything. We're paying money
Oh,
out.
your board's not being paid.
Pardon?
Your board's not, the Bear Lake Improvement Board is not being paid. The only person that's being paid is the township's representative, and that comes with their position on this board.
Okay.
Guy's the only guy.
Well, I get a per diem as a county, but
Not
it's
from
not
us.
coming from the township, it's coming from the county.
Either way, it's our tax dollars. But anyway, what I'm saying is it necessary to do this every year to waste our money when this has been, it took years and years and years. We've been on that lake for 50 years. And it's never been a problem until lately. So how fast are these weeds going to miraculously sprout out? Sure, they're going to grow eventually. But I mean, they don't grow that fast.
Yes, ma'am.
Just one last word, and everybody's reading it in the paper. We have some weeds now. We are reading about constant new invasive species that are being introduced to the Great Lakes. You have the DNR having people wash their boats when they come out of the water so they don't carry an invasive species from lake to lake. So yes, we might have a handle on the milleflores. We don't really on the phragmites yet, but who knows what else. You're going to have to study the lake. It doesn't matter what it was like 50 years ago. 50 years ago you didn't have zebra mussels and you didn't have milleflora and you didn't have all of these problems, and we're only going to have more. I mean, if you read the news, that's what it constantly says. There's more and more coming. So we're going to have to stay vigilant. We can't just say, oh, we got rid of this one and turn around and relax and forget it. So I'm sorry, but we're just going to have to always be here. For half the lakes in Michigan have treatment going on.
I talked to Dave Meiser, the supervisor of Onekama Township, and yes, they do have an assessment, and yes, they had a vote on it by all the township residents, whether they wanted to support that or not. I just want you to think about that. Put that on the ballot to ask people if they want to be assessed. The whole township wants to be assessed for Barley. Just think about it while you're putting your program together and sending us a letter or whatever it is.
I don't see where that's an issue. The only thing I would say is if that was to go that route, as opposed to general fund dollars coming from the township, there should be an approved launch.
See, already we've
Well,
gone.
no, it's.
No, Jeff, I'm telling you, we've gone from weeds now.
I
Now we're gonna have a
know.
lunch.
All I'm saying
And then we're gonna have what else?
is if the township can afford that expenditure, as opposed to going and say we're going to ask for a tax and levy that, do it.
Anyone else? Okay, that's it, Jeff?
That's it. Merry Christmas.
Yeah. Guy, you got anything?
Yeah. As zoning administrator, I received no new complaints. no land use permits in November. However, already in December, I've received a special land use permit for a solar farm, commercial size, in the township. Our township attorney is working with their engineering firm to put together some amendments to our township zoning ordinance that will need to take place in order for that thing to be built in the area where they want to build it. Also received just this month, last week, the first building permit, construction permit for the township, now that we have authority. It went pretty smoothly. I'm new at this, but received the filled out application, got it down to Associated Government Services, and within 5 days they had it approved and back in my hands. So.
What are we building?
Actually, they were just cutting a door in a wall, in a brick wall.
A remodel.
Yeah, it was a remodel.
Will they all go that fast, whether it's a remodel or?
Well, their typical is 3 to 5 days for a residential permit and 5 to 10 for commercial. But it really depends on the complexity, I imagine, of what the project is. Yeah. I'm working on a procedure, you know, so writing it down, so if I'm not here, the forms can be passed out. We're working on getting them on our website so that they can just download them and fill them out and bring them in. Haven't got it finished yet. We did have a ZBA meeting last week. We tried to have one for organizational purposes, but did not have a quorum present, so they could not do any business. Mr. Wilson just was at that meeting, also promoting a short-term rental, what do we call it?
Ordinance?
Ordinance, yeah, police power ordinance. Yeah. However, the planning commission voted not to recommend that. And the other thing was the Bar Lake Improvement Board, and we've beat that one to death already. So.
Is that it?
That's it.
Any questions for Raj?
Well, and I wanted to thank Diane for remembering to put in everybody's tax bill that you got in the last week in the newsletter that we now are the construction authority in the township. It used to be the state of Michigan that enforced and administered the construction codes. So, because I had forgotten.
Well, again, thanks for all your work on that. You single-handedly put that whole program together. I believe, Sam, you're here on behalf of the fire department, is that correct?
Yep. I drew the short straw. First off, with the Manistee Township Fire Department, Paul Manistee, he's not doing very well, so we'll incorporate him and his family in our thoughts and prayers. Hopefully he'll be around a little bit longer, but we don't know. So for the month of November, we had a total of 11 hours for station training and meetings. We have a board meeting, normally it's the first of the month, where we sit down and we hash everything out that we're going to do. During that, we had 4 runs where we actually took the trucks out, we got them running, and we did some pump ops. We fire up the pumps, get the water circulating through. We hook up the fire hydrants to refresh the water in there, just so we're familiar with that if there is a call. We did have 6 fire complaints, one which was at the medical care facility, and there was an actual fire. Most of the calls there that we get are alarms, but this morning we had one, so we wanted to have a cigarette. We've had a total of 7 medical runs. That's something that we are starting to struggle with. Tom Johnson, who is our senior EMT is gonna let his stuff expire. And that leaves 2 guys that we have, our certified EMTs. Losing Paulie as a MFR, medical first responder, that's gonna hurt. So we're starting to struggle with those assists. Like I said, in the training, we're doing the pump ops. We got 133 out, getting familiar with the hydraulics on the ladder. Medical care facility, we had that fire. 131, still showing some signs of age. We have to go in there constantly now this time of the year and drain the lines because they fill up bad valves. So leaking. Again, that's it. I can keep it sweet and simple.
Okay. Any questions for Sam?
You received the report.
Thank you, Sam, and please express our thanks to the fellows across the street, if you would, please.
Will do.
Liquor inspector, changes are being installed actually down for the winter as well as weekends. There was an Oaks meeting in October. No, I know you weren't here. Did anybody hear from, did Ann Ziem attend that, do you think?
She usually does, but I don't honestly know.
Under new business, the zoning board of appeals, Jack Denson's resignation. We received in writing a resignation from Jack Denson stating that he would like to resign from the Manistee Township Zoning Appeals Board. He will remain on the Planning Commission. He's been the chairperson of the appeals board for the past 20 years.
Wow.
We need a motion to accept this resignation with regret.
I would make that motion.
I'll support it.
Been moved, supported that we accept Jack's resignation from the Manistee Township Board of Appeals Board as chairman. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed?
Maybe the township could send them a thank you note or card or something along those lines.
Along those lines, the appeals board's having trouble with their
Having meetings.
meetings.
And I've done a little research.
That's where I'm looking for.
Okay. In a unit of government with a population of less than 5,000, we only are required to have a minimum of a three-member board, and we can have 2 alternates. Since we've been having so much trouble trying to get 3 out of the 5 at a meeting so that we can conduct business, I guess I'd like the township board to consider
A three-member board.
a 3-member board with 2 alternates. And I've checked with the clerk, and I believe we are under 5,000 population. That is correct?
We were at the last census, yes.
And that's the,
Which is the criteria.
that's the definition.
Or do we, how do we,
So
where do
then,
we go from here?
so then 2 people, we have to, actually, the board is created by the zoning ordinance, so we would have to amend the ordinance, the zoning ordinance. If this board,
And that's gotta be done by the appeals, or by the planning commission.
planning commission. But we're in the midst of amending the ordinance anyway for the solar project. So maybe, we can do it all at once.
Discussion? Is there,
What's that?
so what do we need? Do you want a motion from this board to give you permission to do that, or are you, or how we can do that? That's Richard, get back
I
to
don't
I think I'd check with, our council,
Yeah.
Yeah.
our legal counsel, on the proper procedure,
All
but
right.
if this board needs to pass a resolution to do that, or to amend the ordinance? I don't really believe so.
Well, let's find out what the chain is, whether the recommendations gotta come from the planning commission.
Let's pursue the three-man board and go with council and follow their guidance.
And not factual, but I believe that the reason for not being able to fill the chairs is for the lack of activity on the ZBA. They will meet once a year or less in the last several years.
For an actual appeal, that's correct.
Yes, and having said that, I think it just loses a lot of interest in members or potential members. But the bright side of that, in my opinion again, is the fact that there's not many appeals because the ordinance is satisfactory, or the zoning. Several years ago, we used to have a meeting a month on appeals. And we've cleaned that up, and things are going very smoothly at the moment.
I'll pursue it with council and see where we need to go next.
I don't think you're gonna find any opposition from this board.
Okay.
2018 calendar, have you looked at your calendar? Diana supplied you all with calendars with dates and times of meetings and obligations and things. Any conflicts, anything that need to be changed? If not, you'll publish the calendar as presented.
With the changes that have come forth at this point, yes.
Good. Nice job, thank you very much. Item number 3 is the medical marijuana facilities as of December 15th. Things are gonna happen in the marijuana industry in Michigan.
It's tomorrow.
We've spoken, that's why we're here today. We've researched all the information we can find. We've asked the planning commission for their opinion. And my own feelings are, my own, not this board's, is that this is like the fireworks laws that the state came up with. We're just gonna put these laws in place and you guys deal with it. Well, at this point in time, it's my recommendation that Manistee Township opt out of the medical marijuana business. That takes care of all 5 aspects of the medical marijuana business. We can get back in it if we so desire at any time. But if we opt out by resolution tonight, then that means that no one can come in here with a project for medical marijuana and essentially demand that we follow through with it. That's how I read it.
That was the opinion of the planning commission as well.
Correct.
Right.
So-
Then we formally opt out.
Right.
We formally opt out, and as I suggested, if the thing turns around, there are some financial gains by the local governments for it, but there just aren't any rules in place. There are, but they're sporadic. And as I suggested, like the fireworks laws that the state put in place, yeah, fireworks are legal. And people deal with it however you think you need to. So, that being said, I would entertain a motion to, do you have this resolution number, Diane?
Not yet, but we're going forward with this resolution. It'll be 2017-10.
I'm not gonna read this whole thing. The board members have read it, but basically it states that Manistee Township is not going to, no medical marijuana facility of any type shall operate in the township of Manistee. There's 5 different facets.
I'll make a motion to adopt the resolution 2017-10.
Is there a second?
I'll support that.
It's been moved and supported that we adopt resolution 2017.10, which is a opt-out resolution for the township of Manistee with regards to medical marijuana, or any marijuana, recreational or medical. Any discussion? I'll wait till you're done writing.
I just want to clarify, this is for medical marijuana facilities, not patients and caregivers. There's no effect on that. These are just commercial operations within the township.
All set?
Mhm.
All in favor?
Roll call.
Aye.
No roll call. We need a
No
roll.
roll call.
Roll call vote for resolution for roll call.
Mr. Fino,
Yes.
Mr. Dons,
Yes.
Ms. Jankowitz,
Yes.
Taylor is yes. Mr. Berquist.
Yes. Motion carried.
Motion carried.
Anything else comes to mind? You've received a copy of the bills?
I'll make a motion to pay the presented bills and any incoming bills for the month.
I'll second.
Moved, supported that the bills for period November 5th to December 8th plus bill of December be paid. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Manistee County MTA, there's no meetings until after February. The Zoning Board of Appeals will meet Thursday, January 2nd, if there is one. There isn't one presently, is there?
Isn't that Tuesday? That's a Tuesday, not Thursday. So,
Is there an appeal?
no,
for-
but we're going to try and have a meeting again for organization purposes.
And yes, it is Tuesday, January 2nd.
Okay.
My apologies.
Planning Commission meets on Thursday, the 4th, January 4th at 7 p.m. here at the hall. The next regular meeting of the Manistee Township Board will be Thursday, January 11th, 2018, 7 p.m. here at the hall. I have a couple more things I'd like to mention. Number one, I hope everyone has a happy and safe Merry Christmas. I would like to thank Connie, if you can tell me who it is. I'd like to thank whoever's in charge of taking care of that corner over here on the corner of M55 and 31. It always looks very nice. Russ Spencer works, spends a lot of hours cutting grass.
Yes, he does. There's
And that is a state highway corner, but you guys do a nice job of taking care of it. You did awesome.
Yeah, and we're getting ready for the holidays this week too, so.
So we got a lot of painted wine bottles, won't we? Anyone else? Motion's in order.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Move supported, we adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. None opposed? Carried. Thank you very much. Again, check your smoke alarm batteries, check your fire extinguishers, and have a nice holiday.